does healing mean to me? Well, after many, many years, that's probably changed year over year and decade over decade, day over day. Probably what I've come to is we, or at least I, are here to heal and to learn, hopefully to improve, whatever that means. But the healing journey, it's a bit of a cliche, but that's kind of what we're here for, in my estimation. We show up. Some people say perfect, other people say broken, perfectly broken, that sort of thing. And understanding the ways in which you are both perfect and broken, that's kind of it. And from time to time, checking in on that and seeing how you're doing. I've probably felt broken for almost as long as I can remember, from childhood, really. Feeling odd, or, yeah, odd. The odd man out. I felt estranged from most of my relations, parents, friends. I don't think that's uncommon, but it feels pretty uncommon when you're in your own little head. So looking back, I think I was searching for some form of healing then, but the ways in which it happened is avoidance of pain. And that avoidance of pain creates all of the shit that you deal with later on. And I did a lot of avoiding of pain. Funny, but the avoidance, of course, causes more pain when you don't deal with what's going on. And after 44 years on the earth, I'm still facing that all the time. I have a lot of avoidance strategies that are all, well, they're always coming to a head. But today they still feel like they're coming to a head. So lots of healing yet to do. I should acknowledge that I have done some work over the years. I could look back and say, oh, well, I'm better off than I was. But over the last few years, I've noticed more of those avoidance of pain strategies and how profoundly debilitating they are. From substance abuse to just emotional shutdown, avoidance, all the other addictions of society, phones and sugar and all of the things. And it's fucking overwhelming. And I have 2 kids and a wife, and that can be and is a healing process. Being in a relationship, being a parent is a pretty huge both burden and opening to understand yourself and the world. And it can also be an avoidance strategy. Like, well, at least I'm being a good dad or being a good partner, or I'm putting the show on that I am. But that, I've noticed, is also an avoidance of my own healing path, because I can put these labels on and say that I'm doing the thing, and underneath that there's still an endless supply of pain and shame and all of the things. So there's integrating that on a daily basis. Kind of feels like the journey right now. I'm trying to avoid going into stories that I have of what different events mean in my life, because those become stories that you rewrite or re-listen to or review again and again. But I'll do it anyways, because stories are easy. What's kind of coming to mind, I mentioned having a hard time from when I was pretty young, feeling out of place. And that culminated, I suppose, in teenage years, as it does, getting real depressed. Again, just a label of feeling out of place and not belonging and not fitting in, yada yada. So I was on antidepressants when I was 14, I believe. Antidepressants and ADD drugs. And after I asked for help, I received a counselor. My counselor gave me a recommendation of antidepressants. This is, back in 1995 when they were relatively new. After 2 weeks on the antidepressant, I had a suicide attempt, and they switched antidepressants to something else. And maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, I'd been on, I don't know, all of them, and was pretty dismayed with the entire system of, all right, what drug are you going to be on this week? And so kind of my cliche story is I was at the end of my rope with the antidepressant scene. I was entirely miserable. And I went into my psychiatrist's office, and it was the second time this happened, but this is what clued me in, is the pad and pen that he was using had the label of the drug on it. And that's the one that he prescribed me that day. And I was like, okay, I've seen advertising before. This is fucking bullshit. And I don't know if I ever even tried that particular one, but I had been feeling like a zombie for years, feeling unable to feel when I knew I should feel either pain, happiness, sadness, just zombie monotony. And so that clued me into like, this is not the path. And not that I jumped on the other path or the correct path or whatever the fuck that means. But I knew that some part of me knew that the answer didn't lie there. And researching that whole whatever medical industrial complex, you find out that it's a fucking scam. I don't know how else to say it. It's a fucking scam in my eyes. I'm sure some people have been helped, but I do believe there's many other options out there, and it's got to come from yourself. So putting the responsibility of your well-being in a doctor or a pill is only going to get you so far. So that's kind of my story of where it shifted a bit. The knowledge at least shifted. My behavior didn't really shift. I used drugs and alcohol to mask emotional distress and amplify emotions for quite a while. That felt better because it was at least felt more within my control. I was definitely out of control in that state, but feeling peaks and lows feels a whole lot better than feeling nothing. And so, the peak of a alcohol or drug high. Alcohol's a drug, by the way, kids. So sugar. Feeling the peaks and lows of that felt like part of a healing process to me. I was a pretty shy and reserved kid, and like many people, alcohol especially is a opening into learning how to interact in the sort of ways that you interact with alcohol. It's taken me a while, but instead of regretting and feeling shame for partying, I kind of feel like that was an opening into more feeling and figuring myself out. It probably did turn into a crutch of how to deal and how to have fun and how to grieve and how to do most things. So, next step on my healing path was becoming a massage therapist. Kind of just jumped into that out of nowhere. And the healing through touch and physical movement sensation was a lot more profound for me than talking or drugs or many other things. And so that clued me into the integration between your mind and body and all of those things. Yeah. So, I think seems classic, but many people go into healing arts because they need to be healed themselves. And that's what we're actually after. And there's some great healing that comes around from being able to help other people and have an offering. And that becomes a bit of an identity and another crutch in and of itself, where you are this or you are that. And if you can't offer this, then you're not worthy. And that's kind of another level of taking away the identity of being good or bad because of what you're doing or not doing. That's been probably my main struggle for quite a while now. So, yeah, integration. I think healing, that word, integration, if you're broken, you're in pieces to a certain degree. You can't put yourself back together and throw away one piece, because if you're putting together anything, an engine or a vase, you leave out a piece and it doesn't fucking work, even if it's the smallest little piece. So many years spent trying to throw away the pieces I don't like didn't fucking work. And so now I'm digging in the dirt to try to find those pieces that I threw away, that I didn't like, and putting it all back together into something that I do. And fuck, it's hard. It's fucking hard. Having kids, seeing yourself in your kids, it brings it all to the forefront. And it's a mirror. You see your behaviors, good and bad. Tend to cling on to the bad ones and not appreciate the good ones. It just throws it right in your face. And I can see why people can't quite handle it, why people will just ditch or leave. Often the father, but it happens to mothers too, because it's just a daily assault. When you're already doing all of the day-to-day parenting things, your emotional body is assaulted. It's probably the wrong word, assaulted, but a light is shown upon those parts of you that are dark. But that's also been the most profound change that I've seen in myself, is being forced to see that mirror every day and adjusting accordingly. Yeah. So what does healing mean to me? So something I've been paying attention to or noticing over the last few years is there's always a choice, a direction that you can take in pretty much any moment. It can be a large issue or a very small thing that you can lean into your struggle or lean into your healing or your pain or whatever it is, or you can avoid it. And that is a very simple process. It's like, can be a 2-second check-in. Like, all right, reaction, where do I go with this reaction? What path? And there's so much information around healing and this modality and that modality. And I can't say that I've tried them all. There's thousands more. But I've tried a lot of shit to heal. And when it's coming from someone else's idea, someone else's program. It's especially someone who's invented their own, or they're following this protocol or that protocol, whether it's a detox or a therapy or a whatever practice it is. It's theirs for however much they own it, or it's their identity, or whatever it is. And so it can be just like a pill where you attach yourself to someone else's idea of what healing is or should be or should look like, and you put your responsibility into someone else's ideas or protocols or whatever it is. And I think that can work for some people. It hasn't fucking worked for me. I've tried, like I said, many other people's ideas. And I think the initial choice to start something is great. I want to heal. I'm going to try this. But blindly following a path without constantly checking in of like, is this actually working for me? I'm seeing some improvement, lots of improvement. That can be great. But without noticing that, day to day, moment to moment, it's easy to get off of your path and onto somebody else's, or an idea of what your path is supposed to look like. Or I'll tell another story because I like this one. Many times I've decided it's time to shape up. So I say, listen, shithead, like, get your shit together. Finally tired enough of feeling like an asshat to make some sort of change. And so I found a detox healing protocol that's supposed to be good for your mental health. And I think it took me a while. My wife saw it first, but after like 3 months of doing coffee enemas twice a day and spending 2 to 3 hours in the bathroom putting multiple rounds of coffee up my butthole, I was feeling pretty good. But, but it's like, there's something, there's something off about this. You might be attached to putting coffee in your butt as your healing modality. And I've done the same thing with lots of other healing protocols, some, whatever it was. I tend to gear towards diet or psychedelics or movement or shit like that. And for me, it's gotten me both on the path and off the path. So I feel like I'm jumping back in the right direction, but it's quickly steering away. So coming back to that idea of checking in with every moment, like, where are you on your path? You decided on one thing. You don't have to stick with it. Sticking with something is good to see if it works, but the constant check-in to like maintain your, as much as you can, the center of where your soul, for lack of a better word, wants to be heading. To me, seems like the most important thing today. Yeah. Cool.